So, that's the Peloponnesian War was after they had defeated Persia and began fighting each other. Okay, this next pile, the entire pile, look at this beauty. That whole scat of books there is by Edith Hamilton. The Greek Way, which I shipped from Utah. A hardcover binding of The Greek Way, so faded I could hardly read it. You almost have to look inside. Mythology by Edith Hamilton, and The Greek Way, also shipped from Utah. So all I have to brag about there was the hardcover binding of it, and these 3 Greek plays, 2 copies, $1 each. Likewise, these are not unabridged, just reprinted plays. This is her analysis and talking about them. So that won't be quite like being able to hand out copies of the other, but I do plan with my high school students to read Edith Hamilton in our section on Greek history. By high school students, I mean up to the age of 15. So we're talking 13 to 15 maybe. 5 Stages of Greek Religion by Gilbert Murray. A silly little book, probably overpriced. I don't know why I bought it. I probably didn't have very many books on Greece at the time, and I was trying to bolster my library. Alexandria Jewel, Egypt by Abrams. Silly. Greek Society by Frank J. Frost for $1. It looks academic. I don't know if it'll be any good. 1971. We'll see. It's hard to say too much bad about Greece, so I don't know. We'll see what happens there. The Ancient Historians by Michael Grant, shipped that from Utah. Alexander the Great, got it for $1, by Don Nardo. Now, books about Alexander the Great are $1 a dozen. This was published in 2010, amazingly. Actually got out to my hands for $1 the same year that it was published. They're $1 a dozen, and there's so much myth around it. So, anyways, Greek History by Zimmern. This is a history book that I use passages from, and I use it in teaching history when I do that. Greek City-States by Kathleen Freeman. It goes through these city-states: Thorioi, Acragas, Corinth, Miletus, Cyrene or Kyrene, Seraphos, Abdera, Massalia, Byzantium, and conclusion. Haha. History of Ancient Olympic Games, Lynn and Graypool. This was in the $1 section at Strand, but it was not $1 because it wasn't marked $1. When I was charged, I think, $4 for it. I said, well, no, that was $1, and he said it wasn't marked. $4 isn't bad. The March Upcountry by Xenophon. The Anabasis, the March Upcountry. I have another binding or 2 of this in the small bindings area. So there we go. That's the Greek. Oh, and one more I should show. It's the Greek section, concluding with Aristarchus of Samos, the ancient Copernicus, first person in history to say that the sun stands still. You thought Copernicus did it in the 1300s, but actually it was accomplished in the 300s or 400s BC by a geometer. Geometry proved it all, but Aristotle and Plato were using reason. They didn't need geometry. Alright, there's the Greek section. Alright, on to science. We've got about 25 books here or so. Probably half of these are shipped from Utah, because, or maybe 3/4, because I expected to need my science books to teach with. That's definitely an important part of the curriculum. This, though, I just brought because I love it. Stephen Wolfram's A New Kind of Science. Fabulous book if you don't know about it. I think I'd conceived of a bit of the hypothesis. There's a thesis in this book by contemplation about Darwinian evolution. But I didn't quite get that far when I read a little teeny blurb in Newsweek magazine saying next month or whatever Steve Wolfram's new book blah 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 comes out. I just read this little blurb. I'd never heard anything else about it, and it hypothesizes blah 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 blah. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I went to the bookstore and looked at it when it came out, and it was amazing. Anyways, brilliant book. Get it if you don't have it. Red Giants and White Dwarfs: The Evolution of Stars, Planets, and Life by Robert Jastrow. For $1 actually at Strand. I thought, why not? I think you could probably get as many documentaries talking about that as you would want, and wouldn't need necessarily to sit and read a book about it, but who knows. The Fossil Book, Carol Lane Fenton, Mildred Adams Fenton. For $1. Look at that huge baby. That's beautiful, isn't it? Published, I believe, in the 50s, 52 or something like that, if I remember. 58. Bertrand Russell, autobiography. In science, probably should go in philosophy. Should go in the autobiography section, but then I'd have a section with like 7 books. So, The Enchanted Loom, Mind in the Universe by Robert Jastrow. Author of Red Giants and White Dwarfs. I did not notice that until just now. I didn't notice that. Wow. So The Enchanted Loom sounds like some sort of Buddhist nonsense, but it turns out it's quite supposed to be quite good. I think I've heard it recommended by either Hitchens or Richard Dawkins. Christopher Hitchens or Richard Dawkins. Alright. Sir Isaac Newton by H.D. Anthony. I think this is not a very good biography of Newton, I'm afraid to say. I looked through it for some information on his philosophy, and it lacks technical stuff. It really is a biography, not anything about Newton's ideas. Very disappointing. But for 50 cents, what the hell? The World of Carbon by Isaac Asimov. One of the few books I have by Asimov. I might have one more book, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. And if I do, I wouldn't know even which part of the library it would be in. And he wrote so many. I ought to have a few. I should have some of his good ones. I do have 1 or 2 in Utah, like Terminology in Science or something, a nice big thick Dictionary of Science Terms by Asimov, something like that. I've got some of his stuff in Utah, but I should have more there and here. Okay, Fermat's Enigma by Simon Singh, S-I-N-G-H, 1997. Fermat's last theorem was solved, you know, and there's a good documentary on Google about it, and probably on YouTube now too. Just go and put in Fermat's last theorem. It was made in 96, I think. And the mathematician who saw, he had been studying this for years, and the proof came to him. When he's talking about it on camera, he chokes up and he starts tearing up. So, math, it would be nice if I were more into math. I don't know. Classical Mathematics, Concise History of Mathematics, from the 17th, in the 17th and 18th century, by Joseph Ehrenfried Hoffman and Ehrenfried. 1959. This was published, of course, like 1999 or something by Barnes & Noble. I love their reprints. Essentials of Algebra. That should be mathematics, but I don't have enough mathematics to have its own section. 6 Great Scientists by J.G. Crowther. I say that way because I've got it almost memorized from listening to it on DVD or CD. Very good book. Published in the 50s. I remember right. This edition was published in 95, but it's just a Barnes & Noble reprint. Okay, The Recantation of Galileo Galilei. For $1 I got that. Scenes from History Perhaps by Eric Bentley. I don't know what that means. And it is in the form of a play, so I don't know. I don't know when it was written or anything. I haven't taken the time to really look into it. But for $1, I thought, for the hell's sakes, The Recantation of Galileo, I've got to have that. Science and Government by C.P. Snow. Don't know what he's got to say about it. He has written a lot of novels. 1961. He's written a lot of novels.